They say you're too thoughtful, too deep, too different. When you speak, the room goes silent, not because you're wrong, but because you're different. You see things most people overlook. You question the truths everyone accepts. And over time, people begin to distance themselves from you. They laugh at things you find dull. They get lost in gossip, trends, and surface-level topics. Meanwhile, you're trying to adapt while thinking about life, meaning, and existence. You smile because it's expected, but deep inside, you feel like a stranger among your own kind. Eventually, you ask yourself, is something wrong with me? But what if the problem isn't you? What if the world wasn't designed for people who think like you? The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "The man of knowledge must be able not only to love his enemies, but also to hate his friends." Because true knowledge shatters comfort zones. People don't often want the truth, they want ease, and deep thinkers threaten that comfort. This video explores Nietzsche's cold truth. Why does society reject truly intelligent minds? Why is loneliness the greatest evidence of a powerful mind? It all begins in the classroom, a room full of kids your age, yet somehow you feel different, not superior, just disconnected. While others laugh without thinking, you drift into deep thoughts. Why don't people understand what you say? Why does small talk feel like noise? Are you meant to live life or observe it? This is your first taste of the silent curse. Not academic success, not awards, but that type of mind. Overthinking, deeply feeling. The mind that notices contradictions, sees insincerity, and finds it impossible to just go with the flow. As you grow, the disconnect deepens. You start withdrawing from conversations. You learn that speaking the truth makes people uncomfortable. You realize that asking why too often ruins the mood. So you nod, smile, and act. You realize that being truly understood is nearly impossible. People think you're arrogant, but you're just tired of explaining yourself. You're not cold. Your depth scares them. So you hide your ideas, censor your questions, and make your pain invisible. Here lies a great contradiction. Society praises intelligence, but in reality, it keeps emotional distance from pure intelligence. Genius is celebrated in theory, but in practice, it's condemned to loneliness. Why? Because real intelligence doesn't just solve problems, it questions norms. It sees illusions. It challenges what the majority accepts without question. And that makes people uneasy. You're too complex for shallow bonds, too inclined to analyze small joys. You can't allow yourself to relax, and the cost of this is heavy, invisible, but crushing. You're in a crowded room but feel utterly alone. You crave a deep connection, not just someone who hears you, but someone who truly understands you. But that person never comes. And again, you ask, is there something wrong with me? Here lies the unspoken tragedy. The world doesn't teach gifted minds how to cope with loneliness. It teaches success, performance, but not how to exist with a mind that works differently. So you adapt. You become a chameleon, act superficial, and learn when to stay silent, even when you don't want to. Because every time you speak truth, you pay a price. But deep inside, a silent sorrow grows, a hunger for meaning. A question, am I alone in this? You're not. In fact, this silent pain isn't a sign of weakness. It's the survival struggle of a rare mind in a shallow world. Nietzsche saw this centuries ago. He didn't just understand your pain, he predicted it. The hidden rule of human society is this: don't think too much. Don't question the script. Don't cross the line. Follow what's popular. Say what's safe. Agree with the loudest voice. This is what Nietzsche called the herd. The tendency of humans to abandon thinking, not because they're stupid, but because independent thought is dangerous. And truly intelligent people are feared. not because they're smarter, but because they stop worshiping the herd. When someone starts asking why, the group becomes uneasy. When someone notices contradictions, lies, outdated traditions, the group becomes defensive. This isn't logical, it's psychological. In every class, office, or community, there's an invisible pressure: conform or be cast out. And intelligent people resist this by nature, not to rebel, but out of curiosity and truth. But the painful truth is this: different thinking is not rewarded. It's seen as a threat, because intelligence doesn't just challenge facts, it challenges comfort, it destroys illusions, it exposes what people try so hard to ignore. When you enter a room and highlight hypocrisy, suggest an unpopular truth, question the system, you won't be applauded. You'll be labeled strange, too intense, not a team player. Think about the modern workplace. We say we want innovation, we praise creativity, but in reality, those who bring uncomfortable truths to meetings often get sidelined. Employees who question inefficient systems are told, "Don't overthink it." Those who don't engage in gossip or fake positivity are seen as antisocial. Schools are no different. Students who blindly follow rules are rewarded, but those who ask too many questions are labeled troublemakers, not because they're wrong, but because they challenge authority. Even the digital platforms that supposedly celebrate free thought punish complexity. Algorithms reward simplicity, repetition, emotional manipulation, not nuance, depth, or intelligence. So what do truly intelligent people do in such a system? They learn to hide. They shrink themselves, wear a mask to survive. So what should one do with this loneliness, this disconnection? Should we give up on deep thinking? Or is there a power hidden within this difference? This is where philosophy steps in, because loneliness is sometimes the greatest teacher. When you make peace with yourself, when you confront your depth, new doors open in the labyrinth where you once felt lost. As Sartre said, man's confrontation with himself is nothing but freedom. So, this loneliness is actually a process of liberation, and freedom begins when you step outside the herd. Being alone is not weakness, it is the intensity of consciousness, because instead of floating on the surface, you dive into the deepest parts of the waves. And there, you find not only anxiety, but also immense strength. Let's continue with a quote from Nietzsche. "He who dances with his own darkness needs no light." This darkness is not the chaos of your mind, but the birth of a new awareness. And those who manage this eventually choose not the shallow crowd, but real friends. Because true friendship is found in shared depths. But how? How do we exist in the social world with this deep intellect and emotional intensity? The first step is self-acceptance. Saying, "This is who I am," is not easy, but this acceptance is the end of the inner struggle. It is making peace with your body, your thoughts, and your feelings. Because only in that peace can you build a world that belongs to you. A world guided not by the standards imposed by the herd, but by your inner voice. This is where freedom begins. Then comes the act of sharing this freedom. Loneliness can be a bridge, a tool to form deep connections with people who understand themselves. Sharing that depth is far more valuable than fake smiles on the surface. And this is where philosophy shines brightest. Dialogue. Through the Socratic method, asking and questioning, it becomes possible to form genuine connections. So, being alone becomes a choice. Because while you build your own world, you start to meet those who think alike. Another important point is to see this depth not as a burden, but as a duty. As described in Albert Camus' The Stranger, the search for meaning in an absurd world is what gives life its own meaning. That's why those who refuse to stop thinking bring a different meaning to the world. This meaning can be a simple smile, a line from a writer, or a work of art. Your depth might just make the world a little more honest, a little more free. Of course, we can also use technology not to be alone on this path. Even within the chaos of social media, the internet opens doors to connect with those who seek depth. Online philosophy groups, discussion forums, podcasts. These are spaces where lonely thoughts can be shared and nourished. But be cautious. In a world where algorithms reward superficiality, maintaining your mental discipline is crucial. Depth requires effort. It requires patience. In a world of rapid consumption, we must not postpone thinking. Now, despite all these challenges, here are a few practical suggestions for deep thinkers. Keep a journal. Write your thoughts down. It clears the mind and reduces mental clutter. Engage in Socratic dialogues. Share your ideas. Question others. Connect with nature. Solitary walks and meditative moments calm the mind and offer fresh perspectives. Know your limits. Deep thinking is beautiful, but don't ignore your social needs. Stay balanced. Seek depth in books and films. Avoid shallow entertainment. Choose meaningful works. In conclusion, the loneliness of deep thinkers is inevitable, but it is also their strength. This kind of intelligence unmasks the superficial world, exposes pretenses, and pushes humanity forward. Remember, joining the herd is easy, but carving your own path takes courage. If you're one of the brave, you're not alone, because at the end of this road, freedom and real connection await you. And perhaps most importantly, remember, loneliness is the mother of thought. Depth is a fortress against superficiality. Guard it, nurture it, shine within it, because the world needs those who can see beyond the surface. Deep thinking, although it may sometimes feel like a burden, is actually the strongest thread that ties you to life. Because the more you think, the more you begin to grasp the meaning of existence. And you realize that you're not alone in this world. The greatest philosophers in history have walked the same path as you. What they wrote, said, and contemplated are echoes that share your solitude. For example, what Kierkegaard called the anxiety of existence is actually a kind of tremor caused by this deep awareness. But when this fear is faced with courage instead of being avoided, true inner freedom is born. This freedom is the key not only to peace within your inner world, but also to forming healthy connections with the outside world. Because deep minds learn to be at peace both with themselves and with their surroundings. But remember, this path is not easy. You ask questions that tire your mind, and sometimes the answers don't satisfy you. What should you do then? This is where patience and compassion come into play. Be kind to yourself. Thinking is like a marathon. It's not about speed, but consistency. And sometimes simply accepting the state of not knowing is a sign of deep wisdom. Another aspect of mental solitude is that it changes the way you connect with people. Deep thinkers get bored with superficial conversations and seek meaningful dialogues. That's why social isolation is sometimes inevitable. But this doesn't mean cutting off people. It means connecting with the right people. And that connection makes you stronger and freer. Here, another important aspect of philosophy emerges: the search for meaning. As Viktor Frankl emphasized in Man's Search for Meaning, when a person gives meaning to their life, even pain and difficulties become bearable. Your deep mind exists to seek this meaning, and every day is an opportunity to find a new peace, to open a new window. So, when you feel alone on this journey of thought, remember yourself. You are not only a questioner, but also a creator and a transformer. You bring light to the world with your thoughts. Every question is a new door, and every door leads to new freedom. Finally, let's touch on how deep thinking reflects on your social life. Sometimes there will be those who don't understand you. That does not diminish you, it elevates you. Because true freedom does not depend on others understanding you. Finding yourself, living by your own values, that takes courage. And this courage will lead you to genuine friendships and meaningful relationships. So, here are a few small tips for deep thinkers. Find your own rhythm. You don't have to keep up with social crowds. Move at your own pace. Don't be afraid to take breaks. Resting your mind is necessary for your creativity. Nourish yourself with art. Turn to music, poetry, and painting. These shape your thoughts and balance your emotions. Follow philosophical books and podcasts. New perspectives expand your world of thought. And most importantly, remember that no matter how deep the mind is, everyone is human. Being human means being whole, with flaws, questions, and the search for meaning. And you are a unique part of that whole. Searching for the meaning of life may be a difficult path, but never forget, every step you take on this journey makes you more authentic, more free. Deep thinking minds make the world a better place, and you are part of this great mission.